All right, am I on? I do not usually speak with a microphone on, so I am probably going to yell in this thing just a wee bit. It'll keep you awake. We're right after lunch, and we're going to wrap this thing up with gusto. I'm a passionate person. You're passionate people too. So let's have some fun for the next. Well, I'll talk for about 40 minutes, and then we shoot some Q&A. That sound good? Sounds good. As I thought about what to speak on, especially in a large room like this, you know what? I just said to the folks back there, this was never a dream until I got up on the stage or back there. This is a dream come true. This is really cool. It's really cool coming back here and be able to speak in front of my peers and stand on the stage, because usually the only time you came to Arnold Hall is you're going to get in trouble. You get grilled, yelled at, or you're having to gut through an M5. So, hey, hopefully I'm doing a little bit better than that. So anyway, as I'm thinking about what to talk about, cycles of leadership, followership, or leading into your chance to be a leader, it's always been a cycle that you learn. You learn that cycle, and I think in high school, it really is evident here when you come to the academy, but that cycle doesn't stop as you go on to great things in the Air Force and great things throughout your life. As I think back and reflect upon all the things that motivated me or drove me to succeed, individually succeed and be a part of a team and fuel and give that team the best that I had, whether that's in sports or that's in business. This is not just about sports. You know, that's important. It's about giving of yourself and giving your passion to an effort. And I think that's the most important thing. At a military school, sometimes that passion can get lost because of the grind we live in. I think that's really important, and that's sort of one of the best things I want to let you guys fertilize with as I'm talking and maybe sharing some of my stories, is the passion I had coming in here. I can remember speaking and sitting down with one of my high school coaches, writing out some very simple goals before coming here. I remember some of the impacts great people had here on me, right? Just boys, right out those doors, getting yelled at in basic training. You're getting yelled at and trained. All heck is breaking loose. You're frustrated, you're angry. Cadet taking me aside, first class cadet, blading her shoulders with mine, getting me to calm down, getting me to breathe, reminding me, why are you here? What's driving you to do this? Knowing that if you have that vision, that clarity, that passion that's inside you, you'll be able to get through this stuff. All right, now back to it. I think with all those things, you have people, I'd be too many people regarding football that I could list, I'd leave someone out. But there was always that reminder of that why, that driving passion in me that brought me on site here. I don't think you can have discipline without passion. Otherwise, it's just coercion. And like I said, we live in a coercive environment. Nothing wrong with that. The NFL is a coercive environment. NFL, if you don't do your job, you're fired. The standards and the costs in the military when you don't do your job are obviously much, much higher. So sports will always be a training ground for what we're going forth and doing in real life. But when I think about that idea of being able to thrive in a disciplined environment or in a coercive environment through discipline, reminds me of a story. Because like I said, there's ebb and flow to everything. Followership, leadership. You're the big fish in this pond, you move to the NFL, teeny weeny little fish. And that's all right, because that's part of the process. My first opportunity feeling that and learning from an NFL leader was, my first game leading up to Green Bay, and just kind of give you a little history. Again, if you can hold your nose if you're not a football or sports fan, but think of this big picture-wise. I think you'll get something out of it because you'll go through it regardless of the profession that you're in. Playing for the Denver Broncos, get fired, didn't make the final cut. 24 hours, 32 minutes later, I'm hired by the Green Bay Packers. I get on a flight that day, get into Green Bay, 10:30 p.m. Up the next morning, 6 a.m., in meetings at 7 a.m., we're installing game plan to beat the New York Jets. Right back in it, right back into that grind. That grind that you have to take part in if you're going to be successful and have a chance to do what you want to be excellent in. So, immediate transition, boom, I'm in it. 3 days fly by. Saturday before the first game, my first NFL game. And this is kind of unusual because this doesn't always happen. the head coach, as he addresses the team before the game, spotlights me, calls me out. This guy we just got, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to rip some people up. And again, he really bolstered me up, and it's like, geez. I'm like, right on, let's go. Meanwhile, some guys are looking around like, who the heck is he talking about? And I'd just been there 3 days, right? So always like speaking with action, but now, hey, it's been put out there. I'm going to be asked to perform. I'm going to be asked and put on the line. Now, I tried to make a call to Anthony Robbins that night so I could get some sleep. No dice. Couldn't get a hold of him. Was able to somehow maybe get 20 or 30 minutes of sleep. But wake up the next morning, get to the stadium. It's a noon kickoff. Right around 11 a.m., get the talk from our admin guy. And this is just the nature of the NFL. You got 53 players on a roster. Only 46 of them dress for the game. See what happened. Giz, you're down this week. You're down this game. Go see the equipment guys. They'll fit you with some sweats. You'll be on the sideline. Boom, that was it. What do you mean? I was down? Happened that fast, right? High level of elation. You're expecting to have a chance, and then boom, you get put in your place. Now, as I'm sitting at my locker in my poopy diaper, just thinking about me, because I didn't get what I wanted and I didn't have my chance to shine. Player next to me, about 3-4 lockers down. Hear him say, my head's down, I'm bumming, you could read it off me. Player next to me, like I said, starts gabbing. Oh, Gizzi's gonna come out and tear someone's head off. Whoa, look at him. I tell you what, it was exactly what I needed. Kind of broke me up, it cracked me up a lot. He knew exactly how to touch me and get me back into the mix. Sometimes great leaders don't exactly spoon feed it to you and like, I hope you're okay and feel better. They tell you how it is. They tell you how it should be. That's the way I like to be led. It's the way I get the best out of me as a follower. Through the couple years I was in Green Bay, I really liked Brett Favre's leadership style. He was that kind of guy. He had a way to make you laugh when you're a little down, and he didn't have to explain what he was doing. It was always fairly intuitive, and I was able to grasp that really well from an awesome leader like Brett. Through those years, you make plays, you don't make plays. You have good things happen, you have bad things happen. There's an idea to make it in the NFL, to be great as a pilot, to be great as an ops officer, whatever it is that you get into. You got to have something special that you do, something that lets you make a massive impact. I think that kind of taps into what you're passionate about. That's your fuel. It's kind of what keeps you coming back day after day, keeps you coming back to breakfast. I can make it to lunch. I can make it to dinner. Can make it through to this next thing one after time. You've got that special thing that you attach to. At the same time, you've got to be aware there's going to grind to it. No one comes here so they can shine shoes. No one comes here to make hospital corners on their bed. It is part of the process, though. It's a necessary part. I wish I could change it for you. I wish it was something different, but it is necessary. There is something like that in every profession in the world, even in the NFL. There is a grind. There are things that you don't understand why you're doing or have to do, or just necessary things to do. Doesn't change once you leave here. It just recycles, sort of that next stage. So as we're kind of chewing on that, again, the last thing I want to do is lecture and teach too much. I want to tell another story. I want to tell the story about the flag after the 9/11 game. Some of you may not know, and for those who do know, this will be a review. After the attacks at 9/11, the NFL took a week off. I think every major sport and anything that wasn't essential to life took a week off. We rebooted the next week, and for all the right reasons. Let's get back to normalcy. Let's have this be a way in the healing process and the moving forward process. So as we transitioned to that next week, I very vividly remember speaking to my commanding officer, Reserve Squadron, because as I transitioned from active duty into the reserves, I was recruiting for this reserve squadron. I asked them, hey, what do you need? full well knowing if they need me back, I'm there. Packers asked me, let us know what's going on, we're full support. Asked and talked to my reserve officer, and he gave me the best pep talk could have. I mean, he was on fire, he was passionate. What we do in our job is just as important as anything else. He remotivated me. You keep forward, you continue the mission. Reinvested into this week. We're heading into this game. Coach Sherman, the head coach at the time, let me know, Giz, want you to lead the team out with the flag prior to the game. 10-4, coach, you got it. I'm all over it. Now, I'm sifting through my old books looking for my honor guard flag detail and 14-count rifle manual. Like, I wasn't sure if he wanted me to present the colors or what, but I was going to be ready. Long story short, I'm getting down to the tunnel. I'm heading down to the tunnel at Lambeau, and this is right before and right in front of the north end zone. For those of you who know anything about Lambeau, there is a sacredness or sacred ground to the north end zone in Lambeau Field. Some of you remember the Dallas-Green Bay game, Bart Starr, goal line, 1-yard plunge to win the NFC title game some years back. Grown men go to this area and they kiss the ground. Enough said. People really get charged up about it. So I'm standing right in front of this. And I look around real quick, and then I ask one of our equipment guys who's standing down there, Brian, where's the flag? You don't have your flag on you? Like, yeah, I must have left it in my other uniform, Brian. No, I don't have a flag. Like, I was supposed to bring a flag. Anyway, without any hesitation, he shoots up the ramp. As I find out this story later, he talks to one of our other equipment guy who lives within a running distance of the stadium, because no one's moving in a vehicle at Lambeau 4 minutes before the team's heading the field. He sprints home. As he's sprinting home, he's on the phone talking to his wife. Honey, get the flag ready. I've got to take it. He's a Boy Scout troop leader, so they have a little flag at home. They have it right by their door next to their umbrella and their multiple snowshoes, because that's what you do in Green Bay. He's great. His wife is, hey, get the flag ready. I'm moving. No questions. But I go, no questions. I need the flag now. So he's in the doghouse, right? I'm worried I'm going to be in the doghouse. That flag gets from there and there, or from his house into my hand in about 2 minutes. 2 seconds later, I turn around, and the ground is shaking. The crowd came alive and literally carried me across that field. And really, that's what sports is about. It's about connecting people. It's about the competitive part, but everyone being a part of something bigger than themselves. I was on such a high going across that field. What was even more satisfying was the feedback that I had gotten from friends, teammates, brothers and sisters that I went to school here, that were out there doing it, and hopefully me being able to represent what they were doing in a real world. And I felt a lot of pride with that. I felt it was a way to showcase who we are, and I still get feedback from it. I'm very thankful that I had a chance to be a part of that, but just like I mentioned, the crowd. I think about everyone who is out there serving. It was us. It was hopefully a representation of what we're about. I'd like to talk about a few more things because I've hit a lot of things on sports, which is, I think, good because they're a learning laboratory. They're a way in which we can see it very easily, wins and losses, success and failure. I think as you're around any profession, people really striving towards mastery, you can start seeing the great ones. In fact, you can feel and smell greatness. Great recognizes great, and I think you start gravitating towards each other. It's not getting a big head to be able to acknowledge what you're good at, okay? And being able to acknowledge from those around you. A great sports movie, Field of Dreams. I won't take a call. Everyone's seen it. And everyone has cried at the end of it when he plays catch with his dad. You don't have to admit it. I know. It's an emotional movie, great movie. But the scene before that is kind of what I want to talk about to kind of set the tone for this. And it's when Dr. Graham, Moonlight Graham, was that doctor in the movie who mysteriously and magically came back into his youth form so he could go to the Field of Dreams, get his one at bat, and kind of fulfill his sports dream. Well, in the movie, he makes a choice to cross the line and give that up so he could follow his other profession. And, in so many ways, being able to transition from sports and taking that passion and putting it into another endeavor. It happened in a very short period of time, but it's what we all do as athletes or whatever endeavor you're in, taking it and redirecting that towards something else. So crucial. Well, anyway, Dr. Graham does that in the movie. Saves Kevin Costner's little girl. Can't go back to play anymore. He's made his choice. So as he walks by the other players, there's an acknowledgement, a recognition. It's as much about the heroism and him saving the little girl, him excelling at another profession, but also the recognition of who he was as a player. A young, svelte, trim Ray Liotta, who played Shoeless Joe Jackson, acknowledges him like, hey, kid, you were good. Gave the old Doc a lot of peace, a lot of solace, and I think in a way let him know what he took as an athlete, and it vectored right in to what he did as a professional. So what this says to me, and it's a great example, if you can only recognize greatness in the people who do what you do, that's good, but it's a start. Start recognizing greatness in other great performers. This is especially true here. Like I said, everyone in this room is great. You've got something cooking. This is a chance and a platform for you to showcase it. Sometimes if we're just gravitated in a sports world, we miss what someone else is doing in another endeavor, and vice versa. Great recognizes great no matter what the platform. It's true in any walk of life. You start recognizing those great people around you. And then, this is that last step, can you start almost enjoying when you see someone do something great? Can you take pride when another team or another group or another club is excelling? Great performers, people hell-bent on mastery and really involved in truly being a follower and leader, start feeling and realizing that in areas, and they actually get energy from it. It enthuses them. They're almost addicted to it in a healthy way. If you can take that last step into starting to admire and appreciate, even honor greatness in opponents, now you're ready for the world stage. Because every world-class competitor, performer, professional that I talk to, get to know, they have those similar traits. There's a drive to admire that greatness in someone who's taken all their passion and pushed it into an adventure. No easy formula to being a leader. If there was, everyone would be a great leader. Everyone would be a great follower. We're all on a step and a process to it. Just like mastery of any sort of craft or endeavor, it takes time. You never quite get there. But that's what makes it fun. I think that's what keeps it engaging. Again, went to school here 4 years. You learn a lot. I remember I came here. Football was what drove me. It's where my mind was. It's what I gravitated towards. It was what I was good at. And then things start turning. Your freshman, sophomore year, you start seeing that I can excel in school. You start expanding in your relationships. You start finding a way to embrace that grind. And lo and behold, you get yourself out, and now the learning process continues on. Well, I had a great learning experience as I transitioned from the academy. I was on casual status here and actually was taking my leave after vacation. I got to play an all-star game, the East-West Shrine game. At this game, got to meet a wide variety of different football players and people. It was awesome. We're a very tight community, and in some ways we're very much alike. We have a lot of very similar traits, very similar goals. We talk the same way. Shoot, we're breathing the same air most of the time. I think it was neat to get into an environment where people were all over the place. Different goals, different reasons why, say they wanted to play football, excel in it. They're all good, all very passionate, enthused people. One day I was walking on the bus, one of the first days there, you're walking on the bus because they're shipping us all around San Francisco. That's where this game was at. And I walked by a guy reading The Lords of Discipline by Patrick Conroy. Now, this is a bus of 22-year-old, 23-year-old football players. I did not expect to see anyone reading a book, or, for that matter, a military book. I was like, I got to talk to this dude. I walked by him that day. I'm like, he's in-depth reading. Same day, or next day, he's doing the same thing, reading this book. I asked him, hey, man, may I sit down next to you? He's like, oh, absolutely. You know what? I wanted to talk to you about a few things. Well, we became fast friends. Sat down with him that day, and as you can imagine, navigating the streets of San Francisco, we had a lot of time together on that bus. This guy was very unique, very different, very wise beyond his years. We talked about politics. We talked about the military. I obviously shared my experience. He shared his insight. But we covered the whole gambit. This was a person on fire. He was a person of adventure. And one thing he did that made a lasting remark on me, and again, this is his way of being a leader, and almost he empathized so well. He was so present, such a present person. And I tell this story because it's not about me, my accomplishment here, but it's about him and what I learned from him. I was honored by being one of the team captains for our side in that game. You know, a good week of practice. It's nice to represent your peers. He was the first guy that came up to me. And he's like, hey, man, that's well earned. Patted me on the back. I felt like my dad said that to me. I mean, here it is, same age. This guy made me feel like $1 million. I'd run through a wall for him. Now, I got a chance then later on play against this guy. And it was like running through a wall hitting him. He was a tough hombre. But that's what you love. It's what's fun about that game, what you get out of it. Can't say enough about him. I think we all have met people like that in our lives. But Pat Tillman had a massive impact on me as I went through school for 4 years. And this guy taught me in a week how you can start bringing the best out in other people. He showed it in a way that was so genuine, so authentic. All he was present. He didn't have to try. He didn't have to go out of his way to be someone he wasn't. He was just himself. Boom. And it just came out of him. It's so important that we empathize and fight and try to see the world through other people's eyes, because that's truly what we're then able to do, is empower others. You know, sort of this leadership cycle, as I've seen it, when you do get your chance to be the leader, to be the head, to have the onus on you to wear the hat, the best thing you can do is get those in front of you to shine. And again, this was an example that Pat kind of showed me, and I learned it a lot of other times in sport from other teachers. Probably the best way that I've heard of explained, especially when you're talking about dealing with things in a tension-filled environment. You'll have what you're good at. You'll have your traits, but everyone kind of either falls into one or two groups based on what you're good at. And again, this is a broad generalization. Everyone's sort of a shade of gray, but it's important to mention you got really intelligent, smart, gifted people. In fact, there's traits that involve with that. You're really good at strategy. You're really good at the little details and stuff like that, the analytics, if you will. Got the other side, that's the relationship side. Are you personable? Can you talk with people? The coach, the leader, the professional who can find that middle way and still be themselves and still be where their feet are and present. They've got an advantage, got a massive advantage, because you know what happens when the heat comes? What they do is they kind of venture to one extreme or the other. They start either thinking, well, the strategy was there, everything was in place, I did my job. These dummies couldn't figure it out. Or they just try to win favor. Hey, I'm good, right? I'm doing okay, right? Must be someone else. In both instances, they're just trying to be right. And I think really what it comes down to is, do you really want to win? Or do you just want to be right? Do you want to think that you had all the answers and then those around you couldn't follow through? Or you just want to make quick friends so your ego doesn't get bruised? Football, any sport, being a professional in something, the goal is always to win. It's easy to see what that win is in a sport. It's really easy, and again, that's why it's a great learning lab. It gets a little tougher as you get outside, but strive to find what that win is. Because I believe the worst place you could be is just trying to be right. People will notice it. It won't be you. It'll be the kind of maybe not the worst part of you, but it'll be the you that's just trying to protect yourself, the selfish you. I admitted to one act of selfishness on my part. It probably won't be the last, but I catch myself a little bit quicker. It's a little less. It's an ongoing, never-ending process. I tell you what, it's an advantage we have of wanting to do that special thing for each other. You talk about being, what it's like to be at the academy, what it's like to really be here. People ask me all the time. You'd be amazed how many pro football players ask what it's like to be in the military. They're enthused about it. What's it like? You guys are so special, so unique, so different. It's like, and what, you buttering me up for something? I'm not going to buy your used car. You know, but you're saying it's, people try to, you know, I'm wondering why, but everyone, so many people ask about it. You know, so I have a pretty good analogy to it. Imagine just sitting at a table, round table, bunch of folks, 10, 20 people. Being in the military, being at Air Force, even being on a sports team, a group, a collective unit. When the bill comes, everyone around that table will reach out and grab that thing. They want to pay the bill. They want to give of themselves. There's no questions asked. They'll do it every time, and they'll be thankful to do it because they want to show that they care about the other person, and it's a genuine way of just how we are. At its best, we can see the advantage that gives a team. Wow. I think it's how we win games here. It's how we excel in everything we do. We are selfless people. Now, to every sword, there's a double edge. If we're too busy bickering over who's paying the bill, in the strangest of ways, becomes a selfish act because it's all about us wanting to give versus we should be enjoying. We shouldn't have to think about, well, he paid or she paid this time, it'll be my turn next time. And now we start counting and tallying instead of just bringing it every time and grabbing it. It's a general analogy, but I think it plays out true to anything that's a strength can obviously be a weakness. I saw that one time on a football field, and kind of leave you with this before we may take some questions. And we played Army, 1996. It's a long time ago now. The years add up. But we got there. This was a good Army team. They had about 9 wins, had some steam rolling. We had a bit of an up and down season, but anyway, we're taking the field, and we found this out later, that General Schwarzkopf, the hero of our desert assault, modern day Patton, if you will, goes up and talks to the team, and George C. Scott had nothing on this guy's pregame talk. America expects its Army to win. Now you go out there and meet and exceed expectations. Now I think this is a little unfair. We have to take the field against these guys and try to beat them. This Army team came out of the tunnel. In fact, their entire Corps of Cadets were on fire. It was palpable. You could feel it. You could feel the heat coming off their sideline. It's the only time I've been here, and really the only time I've seen an academy team be out-spirited. You know, in some ways, I think maybe what set us back was us all trying to do our own thing. Everyone trying to just grasp at what they were good at. We just ran into a team that was hell-bent on winning, and they were going to do whatever they needed to win that game. The score, and I was corrected later, the score is like 23-9, but it could have been 100-1. They got after us. It was an ugly game, but I learned something from it. we look to empower people. It's nice to have those buzzwords, those one-liners, just like the general had. It's not always that simple or Hollywood-esque. Sometimes it's just in simple action. It's being present. It's being yourself. Nothing wrong with being yourself. If you're genuine and authentic and you really want to win, you can be a jerk. I mean, just a royal jerk. And people respect you if it's about winning and you try to empower them and give them a shot. Same way if you're a bit nicer and a little bit more diplomatic. Sometimes you need to come with a hammer. It'd still be you. There's ways in which you apply that, but whatever your personality is, if you're genuine and authentic, you'll find a way to manifest that, especially when winning's the goal. Keep recognizing greatness around you. I think that will merge you more than you think it will. It brings people together when you start honoring what's awesome and special about each other. Remember why you came here. Keep that always in mind. As you get here, the tunnel and the light at the end of it gets bigger and bigger, brighter and brighter. Share that with those around you. Keep hammering through this grind. Love being here. Love having a chance to share. I got to answer some questions because I know you guys are sick of hearing me just talk. Let me tell some more stories, but I'd love to hear your questions. Thank you so much for engaging with me here. And sitting here, please, anyone ready, you take the booth. I have to get a quick segue from someone. We got to present the plaque. Sorry, I'm just, we got to shake hands real quick. It's been a while since I did an official briefing. Questions? We'll do that thing later and then do the quick pause. Sorry, breach of protocol. I'll give you 20 afterwards. Relax. Anyone have questions?
Good afternoon, sir. Cadet 3rd Class UK from Cadet Squadron 23. When you have a team and there's a toxicity in one person that's trying to bring the team down, how do you protect the team against that toxic person, or how do you change the environment around that team to make sure that that doesn't affect everyone?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Sometimes and I'll answer this in two forms, the immediate thing. So you've got an acute toxic event. I mean, someone just did something that you need to deal with and diffuse very systematically and very almost, you don't want to make a big deal out because you don't want to give it energy. So many people who are toxic are naturally confrontational, right? They want you to bump into each other. You want to make it now the whole group is involved and it gets things spinning. Getting that situation dissolved quickly and easily, not addressing it, not giving it energy, so crucial right off the bat. Now, let's get big picture approach. Ever hear of the 20-60-20? Some people have covered this in books. It's your ship. Captain Abernathy spoke of this. You'll have 20% of the folks on your ship who are high flyers, hard drivers. They are going to be there. All you have to do is make sure they're not bored. Keep giving them things to do. Like I said, empower them and let them fly. You got probably about 20% on the other end of the spectrum. They are looking to sabotage, demote, demoralize. It is what it is, but it's something you'll have to manage. It's really the middle 60 that you want to focus your attention on. So, as hard as it is, you want to obviously get that person at the low end to move the needle, but it's so important that that 1 or 20%, whatever it might be, does not affect the middle 60%. Now, I've always felt the best way in which to keep momentum going is ritual, routine. We kind of learned that here, right? You have a ritual and routine, like I said, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Make it to one at a time. Sometimes, whatever that may be, you harness and focus more on your ritual and routine, and that can sort of keep that middle 60 in the right place. Every situation is going to be different. Just to give an example, I would say you might have someone who's continually late for a meeting or the first event of the day. Now, here's something that you can consider doing is you're creating a schedule and you find a way maybe to make that schedule a little bit more feasible for everyone to be on time, or at least the middle of the group to be on time. This is a give and take, like, especially in pro sports. This is a tricky, tricky business because it's a slippery slope. Sometimes it's not always the case, but in some ways you give a bone, you expect the dog to hunt a little harder. And that's kind of what you're looking to do with your middle 60, okay? The person who's gonna be late is gonna be late regardless. But now it's the middle group that you're trying to affect and coax and keep getting them out so they drift towards where the hard chargers are. This is just a quick example, things I've seen on a pro team as far as not getting a single event to kind of bring everyone down. Does that give a little bit of fiber to what you asked? A little bit of idea? Cool. Anyone else? Next question.
Cadet Third Class, Will Merchant. Nice to see you again, sir.
Cool, nice to see you too, man.
So one of the hardest people that I know, one of the hardest athletes, hardest working athletes I know is Jerry Rice. After he wins the Super Bowl, he goes to the gym and he's pumping iron in there. And I've always wondered why he did that. And so my questions for you are, who's the hardest person you know? What motivated them to work that hard? And what was some of the adversity they had to face?
If I miss any of the points, remind me. But you know, it's interesting, like we'll see this, the media puts this out here too, and I think you've seen this recent year. James Harrison is a linebacker for the Steelers, showing him working out at 4 a.m. J.J. Watt, same thing, a 2 a.m. workout. As a performance coach and knowing how the body works, I would disagree with that application. I love the thrust. Vector is all off, okay? Recalibrating that and buying and getting that person in. Sometimes we hear stories about maybe Jerry Rice working out right after the game. Definitely, he's one of my heroes too. That might not necessarily be the wisest application to get the results you're looking for. So I had to address that. I wouldn't be doing my job as a weight coach, a strength coach, if I didn't. Working hard. You know, this would be a little play on words, and I don't want to make this like a t-shirt sort of moniker thing because I hate slogans, but working hard is almost expected. You know, it's sort of standard here. You don't get a cookie for working hard. It's expected. But doing the hard work, and that's really what the grind is about. No one writes a story if someone goes to bed early and makes sure they get 9 hours of sleep as a professional athlete. 9 hours of sleep. When does that happen here, right? But no one gets a story put on them because they're you know, making some sound choices when it comes to their training plan, meaning they stay balanced. People in the media look for extremes. Tell you what, knowing how Jerry Rice performed, the things he did were probably a lot more simplified than what gets promoted. He probably did those hard. He went to bed. He stayed off Grandpa's cough syrup. He made good choices when he ate foods. Doesn't have to have a ridiculous diet like Nassau prepared it and it's spoon-fed through you, pre-chewed. It was probably just, he made sound choices when it came to his food, sensible choices. In so many things with high-level athletes or even consistent high-level performers in any venture, their process is pretty simplified. It's not extravagant. They're working hard for sure. They're dialed in, but they do the hard things. It's hard to go to bed early. It's hard to put the sticks down and stop playing a video game or get off Facebook sometimes for young folks. It's hard to eat consistently, especially when you're going out to eat. Those are the things that add up and make a difference. That is an elite mentality, and it's very rare, even in professional sports. Everyone's working to that in their own way. But I would say Jerry Rice's plan was probably based on a lot of simplified things that anyone can do, but aren't really willing to do because they're simple, but they're not easy.
Did I hit that on all cylinders as far as all those questions? On the last one, just what kind of adversity would cause them to be working that hard?
It's said a lot of professional athletes have some sort of skeleton in the closet or something that's a little unique and different about their upbringing. They've used it, and it's probably any evident of a high performer. They've re-vectored something bad into something positive. They've manifested it. It's purely about passion. They found something that they're passionate about and re-vectored their energy and used it as a fuel. For some guys, and gals, it's having a chip on your shoulder. It can be a good fuel source. For other folks, there might be a little bit of obsessive compulsiveness. They've manifested it in a positive way and kind of fulfilled and let that fuel them on their endeavor. This will be for another talk later, but for those of you who have looked at the idea of mastery and people performing on the high level, there's a bit of a dark side sometimes to when you're at the very top, because there's no one else there or very few people there. The air is rare, and a lot of times that end game, knowing that, starts becoming evident as people approach. People actually self-sabotage so they don't have to be there. It's again, this is a unique thing. It's a thing we'll talk about next year, hopefully. But it's the idea behind a high performer. It's all right to have a little bit of darkness to you because you're manifesting it in a positive way, or at least you're pushing to do that. You just hope you can keep that vessel straight and it doesn't affect other things in your life. Feel good?
Yes, sir. Thank
Right
you.
on. Thanks, man. Any other questions, concerns?
Hello, sir. C3C Grayson, CS18, Milwaukee native, go Pack Go.
Right on, man.
My question for you is, how have some of the different leaders you've encountered in the locker room dealt with possible conflicts with coaching staff in terms of vectors in which direction they think the team should go?
Okay, as far as you're talking, maybe the leadership on the team, the veteran guys.
Yes,
In a lot of ways, too, it's the guys who've been leaders on an NFL team are typically the guys who get paid because they're the guys who have a best chance of sticking around, and it's just well respected within a room. I know a lot of teams have done this differently, and every coach is a little bit different. Results that I've seen always seem to be best when that coach kind of steps back and gets out of the way. The culture's happening whether you want it or not. There's no stopping it. There's no putting a brake on it, especially in a professional setting. It's a little bit different than sometimes what we experience here, even a collegiate setting. So the coach has to hope that they've paid the right folks, because they're setting the trend on the team. There'll always be operational things that kind of can tweak or irk players. Typically, the best remedies to that are creating venues and platforms for a professional discussion. For young people to understand professional relationships as a process, you kind of got to get out into the world. Hopefully we're tapping into that a little bit here, but you start seeing how you can sit in a room, voice concerns, get a result that might be what you want to hear or not what you want to hear, but then when the door is open again, you're straight ahead and forward with it. I would say I'm fairly blessed to be a part of a strength conditioning department where we have episodes where we close the door and we hash out. The commander takes his hat off and we figure out what's best to win. When the door opens up, he puts the hat back on and we march forward. Whoever idea it was, whoever's idea got poo-pooed or feelings got hurt because their idea got ripped apart by the other 3 in the room or 4 in the room, it doesn't matter. I think teams that are able to do that and have earnest talks, and I guess this could be a one-on-one conversation too, as well as a group, find a way to keep things on the level without disturbing that hierarchy that's involved. Because again, the coach never wants to have to check someone in their place, and I think it's why you'll see a lot of things on TV where someone might be acting outlandishly, the coach very cautious about bridling that, because again, there's a lot of passion involved. People make mistakes. Checking someone, especially when the cameras are rolling, could invite a whole mess of other problems. So you manage it, and you pick your battles. Cool?
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, man. Any other questions, concerns, comments? One of you guys, if you have any thing to ask, sports, nutrition, health, fitness, I'm all game for it. It's after lunch. We've done a fantastic job. It's been an awesome day and 3/4. Like I said, it's been an honor to be here. As we go forward, there is something that brought us all here, something that keeps us here. It's something that is wild and vibrant inside all of you. There's a grind. Don't let the grind beat your vibrance. And we got another question. Awesome.
Connor
Yes, sir.
McCowan, I'm a CS4 grad 13.
10-4.
I was wondering, when have you seen the best leaders not be the best performers and the best performers be the worst leaders?
I know, right? That it happens a lot, unfortunately. You know, it showcases itself in probably every team. Again, there's people who are fantastically talented in sports, fantastically talented. This is probably even the case with a pilot. Fantastically talented pilot, but has a long way to go in that development, emotional process. Sometimes in how a leader and the person in charge rewards things can make an impact on that and somehow sort of influence the culture in a positive direction. And you know, let me explain. So I learned early on how to communicate with players from my father. My father was a coach, teacher for 40 years. My dad never congratulated me for a touchdown or a pin in wrestling or a home run. Instead, what he did was highlight the performance of it, or congratulate me or compliment me on what my eyes were doing, what my hips were doing, what, you know, the one thing, he did a good job of seeing that. He did a great job of staying low. So there's attributes in every profession that you can all highlight. Sports are very easy. Anything that has a physical skill to it, very easy to highlight. Sometimes, and really all the time, that can have an impact then on how that moves forward and presses the culture, because it's not about just the end results, even though we are bent on winning and we have to win. And in a way, that person, even though they are a bit of a detractor, is contributing. There's only so much that you reward them for in front of the group. In fact, the group can tell and they know what they're doing. They know why they're there, but their influence doesn't have as big an impact because verbally as well as culturally, you're not rewarding just the outcome. You're rewarding the physical performance, the skillful performance that they're putting together. So that's a way I've seen it handled. I think it's a way in which my dad helped me grow as a person, a sportsman, and I think it played into a lot of other areas of my life as I kind of grew up and developed and found ways to hopefully communicate more effectively with performing individuals in any endeavor. Feel good with the answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I think that's a wrap. Now, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's a really quick one. Sorry.
Sure.
Hi. So my question was about mental psychology with players. Do you also work with that too, or is it just conditioning or strengthening?
Good question. I think every strength coach, especially that has a little bit of Jack LaLanne and a little bit of Dr. Phil to them, it's important. We don't put anyone necessarily on the couch and do a psychological eval. High performance psychology is even just some of the things we're talking about here, how people feel and think, how that affects their actions and eventually then anchors in to their beliefs. You know, one thing that I always look at is you can't really change how someone feels or what they believe, you know, unless you're invasively going about doing that, and that's what a professional psychologist would do. They would use medication they would use some things invasively to change that immediately for the safety of that person. In our case, it's about developing habits. So for the most part, what we're looking to influence is how people think, their language, how they talk. So that's done as much by example as it is by giving them and rewarding them for things that are positive and attribute to the greater good. It also can curb behavior. I think every organization does that to some extent. Me and verbalizing it and you kind of seeing it. Don't want to tell someone how to feel. No. People, if you're married, you know what I'm talking about. You can't tell someone how to feel. You necessarily can't change someone's belief on a dime, but you can start curbing how they talk and at least giving them a language. It's why most groups have their own language. We have our own language, acronyms. We have a way of talking. It forges then feelings that lead to actions. And sometimes if those actions aren't what we want, again, we have that coercive environment that helps forge discipline. I think there's a value to that. There is. I mean, you've got consequences if you don't perform. I explained this to a group. It kind of made sense to them. Like, remember in basic training where you heard you woken up by the pots and pans the first time? All right, terrible feeling, right? Like for me, I never wanted that to happen again after it happened the first time. So, negative consequence, woken up in a bad way. I disciplined myself within that to avoid that from happening. So again, the action was set forth to curb my behavior. They used the tool of punishment to me to self-discipline, and I think we all did that. If you made it through and just like, you know what, I'll just let the pots and pans wake me up, you're a tough hombre. I hand it to you. I only wanted to deal with that once, and I was out of it. But again, that's an example of how you would use a behavioral tool to kind of start changing how someone thinks or even, how they eventually start feeling and believing. So I always think the best things are subtle, organic. I'm not a big fan of too many posters or too many slogans on shirts because I think we get inundated that with various media sources and sometimes it's a bit cliche. So it's best sometimes to feel those things out and naturally it's just put in place. Army probably would have done that same thing to us whether General Schwarzkopf spoke to them or not. He probably just had to stand in the locker room for about 10 seconds. And that would have probably done as much good as anything. But sometimes it's those subtle things that have the deepest impacts on how those around you who want to influence those around you think and act. Sound good? Right on.
C4C, Abraham Rice from Cadet Squadron 31. And my question was, is there a positive and effective way for followers to maybe even critique leadership or to change the vector of leadership?
Yes, there definitely is. It has to be handled in a professional way. It has to be handled on the commander, the leader's schedule. Every sharp leader I've seen, and I'll talk about the sports world because I think that's where you get a little bit different picture. It's a busy day. So it's a full-time job. Guys get in 7 a.m., you work straight through to 5, 6, and you take work home with you. You do that throughout the 4 or 5 days of the week. So the schedule is pretty tight. Things are packed in. It's not, I think professional is the best word, nor is it going to be strategic and smart to get the effect you want, just trying to grab someone walking through the hallway or sitting down at lunch. We never talk to anyone about shop at lunch. It's a sacred time and sit, and I think it's important to have that fellowship. So getting on someone's schedule is imperative. I would have to think it would be very hard to find someone who didn't have an open door policy if put on their schedule. Like anything, and it was sort of like that person causing a distraction. There's moments that are inappropriate to have that. So, in so many ways, especially with the military, you're going to be in a time crunch beyond that of what a sports team goes through. You might have to react unexpectedly to who knows what. So you might not always get your scheduling request answered in the time and speed that you want it, but you put the request in. And I think that's the most professional way that gets done, and now you have your ducks in order. I always think of answering or presenting something in two fronts. You've got an ethical and moral stance to it, and you've got the strategic stance. As long as things abide by those two, I think you've put together your marketing plan to your commander as best as possible. Look, here's where I think this is just, and us doing so, here are the benefits. We're going to get more for less. And they'll make the decision, or he or she will make the decision on what's best, because we only see so much. Obviously, the person up top has the greater vision. So always make a meeting, make it scheduled, show up early, and have those two rounds loaded up before you go in. Cool.
Sir, C4C Keanu Komar from Mugwanago, Wisconsin, go back out. Being the strength and conditioning coach back in Green Bay, you probably worked pretty closely with Jordy Nelson this year. What did you see out of him that helped him make that big comeback and be the Associate Press Comeback Player of the Year?
I tell you what, it's neat you say that, because it really piggybacks a lot off the Jerry Rice comments that I made. And that's solidified some of the things that I was feeling about high-level performers. He kept things simplified. He did the hard work. And really, he's not alone. There are a lot of other players who get banged up, a lot of other surgeries from year to year. Obviously, Jordy's going to be highlighted. He's a very special player, special person. But I would say that about a lot of the guys who have successful rehabs, who have successful comeback seasons from an injury. Even those in a micro level who have a poor game and come back in that micro sort of way, their process is very similar. They stay simplified. There's not a sense of panic. I think Jordy's most thing I remember most about him is injury happened. This is a couple years ago on I believe it was a Saturday. He was, we weren't in the office Sunday because we came in late. The players had off. He was in Monday morning first thing, like he always is, with a smile that you couldn't punch off his face. It's just him. He was back to work. And he probably had to take those couple days and embrace what had happened. Nothing wrong with that. But he quickly turned that around. The bigger the loss, it might take a little bit more time, but it's so crucial to turn that 180 degrees. He didn't feel sorry for himself. It was back to, how do I contribute to the team? And then obviously, how do I shore up my facilities and my faculties in order to be able to keep contributing again. So that's what I've seen with a great player like him, and I see it with all players who consistently perform well. That turnaround time gets shorter, quicker, and they stay pretty simple in their approach then. Cool. Right on. I think this is a wrap officially now. As I was saying before, this is a tough environment, but the next place you'll be will be tough too. Be tough too. What gets you through? Harness on what keeps you wild and vibrant. You're men and women of adventure. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Stay wild in all the best ways, in all the best ways, and you go chase your adventure down with all you got. Thank you so much. Love you guys. I can't wait to see what you do in the future. God bless. Thank you.